Hey, Andrew. Awesome to
Hi,
see you.
how's it going?
Great. All right. So, just to kind of put some fences around this conversation, can you just share with us who you are?
Sure. My name is Andrew Hoffman. I am a yoga instructor, and I have owned yoga studios in the past. Over the last 5 years, probably even 6 years at this point, I've been mainly online. So I've been running an online teacher training, and I run online mentorships where I help yoga teachers improve their yoga teacher skills. So that is primarily what I do. And at this point, it's 100% online. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
And that was actually our first point of contact. We met in New York when I was taking one of those courses, and you
Correct.
were the mentors. So we had dinner and chatted, and here we are several years later. I don't remember how long ago that was. That was when that program first started. So was that 5 years ago?
That was back in 20, Alana and I started the program, the whole behind the scenes stuff in 2013.
Okay.
Filming all the lectures, all the classes, all the content, and it went live in 2014. We kind of did like a practice training and got feedback from a certain amount of people that went through it, and then 2015 is when it really became fully open to the public. So ever since 2015, it's been fully open. 2014, we kind of launched and got feedback. So 6 years now, I'd say.
So wow. So I mean, I want to delve into that because you have a unique perspective. Elena Kaivalya was one of the first teachers to actually really come out with that sort of robust online training, and you were part of that. And it was something that was really different, and there was a lot of chatter about whether that was effective. And the answer as a student of that is yes, it absolutely was. So I want to kind of go there, but before we go there, the other day, you posted something on Facebook. I jumped in, and I just want to kind of take our conversation to what that was all about. So
Yeah.
take it away.
So I posted on Facebook, and if you want to add me and see what it was all about, you're more than welcome to. My first name is Andrew, Andrew. Last name is Hoffman, Hoffman. Just add me, friend request me, and I'll accept you, and you can see it for yourself. But I posted a status basically saying that yoga teachers should be charging for their classes. Obviously, with coronavirus, everything has gone online, and there has been no plan, no strategy from the majority of instructors. They have just started basically live streaming themselves practicing and talking them through their own practice. And most of them, from what I've seen, have been either free or donation based or charging, but usually some sort of combination of the free / donation / maybe I'll charge, format that they're going at. So my status or post was basically about that you should be charging and the repercussions on the industry of not charging for your services. And I'll keep going if you want me to, unless you had any follow-up.
Well, I do actually would like you to keep going. So basically, I jumped in on your conversation,
Yeah. So,
and then I ended up writing an Elephant Journal article based on my experience as an owner. And
yes.
you and I have definitely. So in fairness, we have the same mindset about this, which is
there's
to be.
Yeah, there's three perspectives on this whole thing. There is the yoga teacher perspective who's not a studio owner. There's a studio owner perspective, and most owners are teaching classes. And then there's the student perspective, those that are now having accessible classes for free. Most people are strictly looking at it from the teacher perspective that's not an owner. And what's happening is I came at it from, even take yoga out of it, more of an economic discussion. So I actually for the courses that we have online, we have specific groups that are dedicated to each course. And I went live in those groups, and I gave this discussion not based on yoga. I actually used Starbucks as an example. So I'll do that here with you guys. During coronavirus, if you walked into a Starbucks and the Starbucks employee, the barista, was sitting at the front door and they said, hey, Janis, instead of going up to the front counter and paying for your coffee, go around back because we're giving it out for free. It's awesome. Just go get it. You get free coffee, get as many as you want.
Right.
For your friends too. What's going to happen to the Starbucks? It's going to go out of business, plain and simple, because the employees are now giving away the product for free. And the employees, they think that they're doing something good and positive. They think that they're providing, this relief and, oh, everybody likes coffee and great, blah, 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 fantastic, whatever. But they're not looking at the long-term repercussions. In 6 months from now, their Starbucks will go out of business, and as a result, they will not have a job. So they're essentially putting themselves out of business. The reason that they think it's good right now is because they're not the ones that have to pay the bills. They don't have to make payroll. They don't have to pay utilities. They don't have to, there's so many things. Yeah, insurance, right? Yoga studio owners have to pay MindBody or Zen Planner or whatever software system. That stuff is not cheap. Like the advanced versions of those softwares are like $500 a month. So the employees don't have any expenses. And if you're giving the service away for free, the employer, the Starbucks in this scenario, still has to make those payments. If they don't have any money coming in because the service is given away for free, it's going to go out of business. It's simple economics, right? And it's the same scenario with the yoga studio, yoga teacher relationship. If the yoga teacher is giving away the service for free, the yoga studio can't charge for it because the consumer is not going to go to the yoga studio. They're going to go to the yoga teacher. What makes it even more difficult in the yoga studio teacher relationship is that a lot of teachers teach for multiple studios. So not only like the barista at Starbucks is just putting their Starbucks out of business. They're not impacting other coffee studios. Right. But the yoga teacher could actually impact 3 or 4 or 5 studios. So it's this major domino effect that that's happening. So as a result of me posting this whole big discussion, I had a lot of comments come in. Some good, a lot of good actually, and some people were frustrated with me, I guess I'd say is kind of the easiest way to describe it. But what's happening is that there are a lot of similarities in the people that were upset with me. They're saying, I can't charge because X, Y, and Z, or I can't charge because the yoga philosophy says to give it away for free and to serve your community in a time of need. And what they're really doing is they're hiding behind the yoga philosophy, which I get, and it's what you were taught in teacher training and this and that. But again, you're not realizing the long-term impact of it all. So if you serve your community now by giving away free classes, what's going to happen is your community won't be able to be served 6 months from now when the yoga studio that you work for is out of business. You won't be able to serve yourself because you no longer have any income from the yoga studio that was employing you. So my perspective is by charging, you are serving more long-term from a long-term perspective than you would be by not charging.
I also think, though, in terms of community, there's a couple things. So I have taught for 14 years different modalities, not just yoga. I am a yoga teacher, but I am not strictly a yoga teacher.
Right, you do a lot of different things, correct.
In 14 years, 0 people until the last 3 weeks have assumed, just as a point of entry, that classes that are posted are free. And in the last 3 weeks, the point of entry now from a consumer is that they are free. So if I have a class schedule, I've had people that I do not know that are not previously part of my community approach me and say, I'd take these, and I send them registration details and I get back a response, oh, I didn't realize it was $20 for a drop-in. I thought it was free. And that's where I kind of pulled the alarm bell, because as a collective group, we are using no discernment whatsoever as to who should get it for free. I have no issue particularly serving my community of people who were my students before. But when I get complete strangers approaching me with that base assumption that I'm going to give them, what are they providing me in return? And to very much to your point, I need to pay my studio rent, my insurance, all of that overhead. $0 have been taken off of any of that. I can't simply just cancel my commercial liability insurance, which is not the same thing as teacher insurance, but I can't cancel that either. And my rent payments remain full force. I paid 100% of my April rent. So I can only be of service to my community when I as well am taken care of. So it's a circle. It's not just a line where as a teacher, I just give and give and give.
Well, that point came up a lot in the post, was that, well, a lot of people don't have a job, so they can't afford to pay, which I get. You should also, as the community leader, as the teacher, you should know who those people are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you want to say, okay, I'm charging $5 for a yoga class online, you know that Sally lost her job, has zero income. You may reach out to Sally and say, hey, Sally, I know you lost your job. I want to give you this for free. Or instead of $5, I'm just going to charge you $1.
Correct.
There's ways around it.
There was a lot of different fences that I could see because I implement them. So I do know who's lost their job. And I want to say this with utmost respect, but if you had a job, you probably have some skills. So I have 4 students right now who are doing trades. They're light administrative tasks that they can help out with Karma Trade for my business. And these are things that I would pay in kind. I'm not, giving them strategy or having them redesign my whole website in return for a class. It's like, you can do 30 to, however many minutes of work. I don't even have it that structured. It's just like, here's a light administrative task because you are unemployed. You can't afford my class, but you also have a huge vat of time and you have some fundamental computing skills, or, if someone wants to jump online and read to my child, that's fine.
Right. One that just popped into my head, what helps us as yoga teachers and yoga studio owners are online reviews.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Facebook
for sure.
Reviews, Google reviews, Yelp reviews. Go on and give me 3 reviews. One on Google, one on Yelp, one on Facebook.
Correct.
I'll exchange that for you in the class.
Correct.
And then have your husband do it too. Now I have 6 reviews. And now you'll get another class. That's your payment. Like, there are ways around this. But just using the whole I want to serve my community because that's yoga debate, like, that doesn't hold up, because in the long term, you won't be able to serve your community.
The other piece that I think I saw on my post come up was trials actually are a valid part of a business funnel. And I do agree with that, but I think 2 things there. One is it needs to be part of a strategic business funnel. And 2, it's generally, if any business that has ever given me a trial class or trial week or trial month makes that clear from the outset. They put fences and boxes around that. It's not just free, because at what point is it no longer actually compassionate to cut people off? So in my post, there was a bit of a conversation from a student who was unable to pay. And I thought through that and kind of came to the area where, okay, do we extend all of this until somebody does work again? Do we then, in the future, every time somebody has a hardship in their life and is unemployed, are we as a community saying, we're going to give every unemployed person a class? And at what point is it not even compassionate to say, oh, I just did that for a couple weeks now, as of tomorrow, I'm charging. So there's no fences or boxes that we as an industry have kind of created for our consumers.
This goes back to the point that I brought up earlier, was that there was absolutely no strategy at all from studios and from teachers. Like, the strategy was, here's my service, hopefully you donate. Like, that was honestly 90% of the strategy. The way it should work I don't think that there's any issues with giving away like free mini classes, like a 10-minute meditation. I think that's okay. A 10 or 15-minute sequence for your shoulders, or for like, there are things that you can do to provide value that you can give away for free. That also, what you said before, where it's a funnel type of thing, where, okay, I took a free meditation with Andrew and I took his free 15-minute lower back pain relief sequence, whatever I'm offering. And now I have a 75-minute lower back yoga class that I'm offering, but it's $10. If you don't want to pay the $10, use the 15-minute one over and over and over and over.
Correct. I completely 100% agree with that.
So there are ways to funnel people into paying for your services that are strategic. And by giving those things away for free, you should be getting everyone's emails. Say, okay, I have this 10-minute meditation. It's free. I'll email it to you. And that's how you get their emails. That's how you then can funnel them into more of your product.
So that brings me to another concern that I actually had. One is that we've got content that's being put out there without copyright to music. And two is we have content that's being put out there without liability waivers. So how does that all work?
That's tricky. I know from owning studios that when someone buys one of your services or one of your products online, you do the click here to agree to the terms type of, and that's a binding agreement where that's your waiver, where if they get hurt or X, Y, and Z happens, that they can't sue you. And if they do sue you, I've been sued before. It's a fairly simple process. I went to court and I had the waiver printed out, and it said, it was full legal terms or whatever. And the judge said, you can't sue him because you agreed to not sue him for all of these things. And that was it. Right.
When we're streaming this content onto Facebook, nobody's clicking.
Correct.
So, and if we're streaming it onto Zoom, nobody's there. There is no waiver process in that.
Right. Example. That's a major issue. So what I'd recommend is for that, there are ways to do it, but if you're setting up like a checkout system where someone has to pay, that you do implement that system where they do have to agree to the terms in order to purchase the service. If you're giving something away for free, like a 10-minute lower back sequence, make the price $0, and they still have to agree to those terms. And I'm not a lawyer. I don't claim to be. So what I would recommend is either seeking legal advice, or I'm sure you could do some simple Google searches where you can find liability waivers for the fitness industry. I have mine that I would use at my studio. It would be the same thing online that it would be in person. So I would just change the wording a little bit so it made it clearer that it was for the online services. But I would feel comfortable in using my liability waivers that I've used in the past. So I'm sure that you can do some Google searches and find liability waivers for fitness classes.
Absolutely. And I would also personally recommend contacting your own insurance company. I did that because not every instructor insurance package actually covers online. So I know I do have a friend who had to actually buy an extra waiver package. Mine was included with that. But just because something is free doesn't mean that we are excused from potential liability issues.
And your insurance company, your small business insurance company, or your yoga insurance company, whatever, I'm sure that they have waivers for you. They'll just email you the waiver.
Correct.
And
absolutely.
You just, you change it to your own LLC or whatever name you're doing business under. But your insurance company should be able to provide you with waivers or direct you to a source where you can access liability waivers.
And that was actually personally one reason as well that I was not in the position to offer free classes, because frankly, the administrative load for a free student is almost as heavy as it is for a paid student.
Right.
Because I still have to put people through a checkout process. I still have to issue them waivers. I still have to do all of the back end admin. the same way that I would if they actually pay. So I know an argument has been made, well, what does it cost me to give away a few hours of my time a week and give away my classes? And for me, that second lens of the studio owner lens, that's how I look at it. So that admin has to be done still. And therefore, it isn't just 3 hours of my time to give away 3 classes. It's 3 hours plus all of the admin efforts. So let's now turn to the second group of studio owners.
Yeah, so studio owners. So obviously there are a lot less studio owners than there are regular teachers, but this tricky part for the studio owners, and I have been in contact with other studio owners, both in Canada, in the United States, and other parts of the world, is that they feel like they cannot charge because their teachers are not charging. What's happening is if I own a studio and my yoga teacher, let's call her Becky, is teaching for my studio, I'm paying her her normal rate to teach. Let's say I pay Becky $50. And she's teaching for me at Monday, 9 a.m. And then she also promotes that she's doing a free class Monday at 6 p.m. I feel like I can't charge because why would students come to me and then she's offering her free service at night? They're just going to go to Becky instead. So it puts yoga studio owners in a tough spot. What I would recommend if I still own studios would to reach out to my staff, reach out to my instructors, and explain this all to them. Say, guys, here's the situation. I can't have you offering free classes. It's going to put me out of business. I need to charge. If you are going to offer free classes, I can't have you teaching for me online. So again, it's still an awkward spot. You're essentially firing them they're already fired because they're not working,
Right.
But you're kind of firing your employee. So it's tough. And I have had other studio owners reach out to me after seeing my post, and they've said, hey, Becky is still teaching free classes. What do I do? You might have to let Becky go, where once all the coronavirus ends, she's no longer teaching for you. And that might be a conversation that you have now. Say, hey, Becky, if you continue to teach free classes, I am not guaranteeing that you have your slots back when classes resume again. So it's a tough spot to be in.
Can you touch on how those students are even reaching out to their clients in the first place? Because most teachers actually sign what's that called? Non-solicitation.
Yeah, it's tough. Most teachers are just posting on Facebook. You can't really stop them from posting on Facebook. And the majority of instructors out there are independent contractors rather than employees. So at least in the States, I know that you can't stop someone from making a living. Like even a non-solicitation or non-compete agreement, if that's signed, and say I bought your yoga studio and we had a non-compete, and even if you went and then opened another yoga studio across the street from me, the non-compete agreements are tough because if you can prove that you've been making a living in the fitness industry for the last 14 years, which you wouldn't have any problem doing based off of your tax returns and whatever else, it's hard for a non-compete agreement to hold up in the court of law. So that's tricky. There's no harm in emailing your instructor and saying, hey, you signed this non-solicitation agreement. I'm going to go after you if you continue to compete against me. You can do that. But in the long run, it's probably not going to be beneficial for you to actually go after them in the court of law because it's expensive. And one teacher competing against you in this new online virtual world is not necessarily going to put you out of business. Like you're either going to make it or not make it. I don't think one teacher is going to be the difference if you do survive or if you don't survive. So you have that in your back pocket, the non-solicitation, the non-compete agreement. But again, you can't really stop someone from making a living. Going to court is going to be a huge headache for everybody involved. And I don't think one or two teachers really makes the difference if you will survive in this time, unfortunately. So that's kind of my synopsis on the whole thing, from being an owner and how you want to relay the message to your students or to your teachers.
So let's just tackle what that looks like from an economic standpoint when we are studio owners. I know what it looks like. You know what it looks like. But I had, in one of the online teacher group conversations, somebody said, well, it's no problem that you're an owner. You're automatically entitled to loans. So that's the direction you should go, and don't worry about having your teachers teach for free. Now, I did respond and say, I do not feel compelled to take out personal loans to pay for community building, etc. But just tackle kind of what the economics of this actually look like from a studio owner standpoint.
If the answer to this from the employee perspective is take out a loan, that's not the answer.
It's not the answer.
I know the majority of studios barely survive. These small mom and pop studios have a hard time making money. So if they had to take out a $20,000 or $30,000 loan to get through this, that loan has to get paid back eventually. So if the owner, let's say that they're profiting $2,000 a month, which is not a lot. It's about $25,000 a year, right? How many of us can survive on $25,000 a year? But let's just say that they are $2,000 a month. If they now had to pay back the loan, and that loan is at $1,000 a month, now they're only making $12,000 a year. Divide it up by the month, and it's $1,000 a month. That's not sustainable. So the business is no longer sustainable. They're going to go out of business. So that's really what it looks like. If the answer is taking out a loan, it's not going to help you survive necessarily. What I think could potentially be the answer is rent going away. And that's a tricky conversation. That's more of that's a bigger conversation, obviously. But your online classes are not going to be able to support the business how it was previously running. Because obviously a lot of us are new at this. So there's going to be some trial and error. A lot of studios are not going to be able to charge necessarily the same amount that they were charging previously.
And I do want to actually ask you about that also.
The rent thing.
Well, there's two things you brought up that I want you to address. One is the rent thing, and two is why can we not charge what we were charging before, or can we? Because actually, I do charge what I did before, and the simple reason I do is, again, I'm a very experienced, very educated teacher. I have on-camera experience, and so this is not new to me. And they're paying for my content. They're not paying for the studio environment. However, I also am fundamentally a private teacher. So they are getting a mirrored experience, which is different than a large studio where you've got 45 students in a room.
Correct. Okay. So let's start with the rent conversation. The rent, here's the first thing that I look at. I would take a look at your lease. If you have in your lease what's called a force majeure clause, FORCE MAJEUR.
Yes.
Force majeure. That basically says if something crazy happens, like the coronavirus, and you cannot operate your business, you don't have to pay rent, essentially. I mean, I would look at all the fine print, but that's what a force majeure clause is in there for. If something outside of your force, if a hurricane, if a tornado, if something crazy happens where the world shuts down in your area, and in this case, it's the whole country and every country.
The whole world, yes.
Yeah. If something outside of your force happens, again, read the fine print, but basically you don't have to pay rent. That's pretty much what a force majeure clause says. So check your lease. If you have that in your lease, go to your landlord. Yes, first celebrate, then go to your landlord and say, hey, landlord, there's
Let's enact this thing.
Wait, I'm enacting this. And have a calm, peaceful conversation with him or her, because they are not going to be happy that you figured that out, because they want their rent, obviously. So force majeure clause is going to be the number one thing that you go after. Are you still there? You froze up on me, Janis. I hope you're still there. I'll keep going. Okay, great. All right. That's all right. I'll keep going. So the second thing that I would do, if you do not have a force majeure, oh, you just went away. You still there? Okay, I got you now. Perfect. Yeah, you're there. Okay, great. I see you now.
Let me just make sure. Okay, we are recording still. Okay, awesome.
Okay,
yay.
great.
Hey.
So if you don't have a force majeure clause, you're most likely not going to make it through 6 or 7 or 8 months of rent. Nobody has that money set aside. I would have the conversation with your landlord and say, hey, landlord, I've paid April 1st. I'm giving you a heads up. I am not making my next payment or any payments after that until this goes away. I would just be brutally honest with them. They might get angry with you. They probably will. But it's better to have it now than the first of the month when they're looking for their check. Give them time to figure out how to make their mortgage payment. What's going to happen is they're going to say you have to leave. Now, they won't be able to necessarily kick you out. And I've actually heard this from multiple lawyers in different walks of life. The courts are not open. The courts are shut down. So even if they filed the paperwork to evict you,
they can't.
They can't. So you're not operating your business, number one, but you also can't get kicked out. Let's say that they do kick you out or they do start the process of evicting you. Here's the next conversation that you have with them. Hey, landlord, it's going to take you longer to rent this space out than it is for this to go away and me start operating again, right? Because no one is taking over spaces right now. If the yoga studio from the street, down the street from me went out of business, they left, and the landlord was now looking for me to come in and take it over. My perspective is, why am I going to do that and start paying rent in the middle of a pandemic? Because I now have to make that rent payment. So without any business coming in, mind you. So it's not going to happen. They're not going to kick you out. So you explain to them, when this is done, you'll either have an empty space where someone new is going to come in, or when this is done, I'm still going to be here, and then I start paying you rent again, maybe in a month or two after being open again, right? So I would negotiate with them and say, hey, when coronavirus is over, let's say everybody's up and running again in September, which hopefully it is. You say, okay, I need September free to get back on my feet. And then your payments start coming in again October 1st. And
I'm going to give you a very specific example.
Go ahead.
Actually rent from one of Canada's largest landlords. So they don't respond to emails. Mm-hmm. There is no negotiating that is possible because I have emailed them probably 15 times and they respond by way of mass email that go out to every tenant. And what they have invited us to do is to put our name in for a rent deferral program where we actually do not have to pay for 2 months, but then we actually have to pay that entire amount back. So for 2 months, we get to not pay, but that is accruing. So it is not free rent. There is no freeness to it. So I actually applied in for April and I put a stop payment on my payment for the bank, from the bank. The bank let me know that they were going to try, but actually the landlord has to initiate that stop payment. And I was like, well, they don't even answer my emails. They're certainly not going to be reaching out to you to stop my payment. And so my payment actually has been processed in full because I was unable to stop the payment. And number two, even if I didn't pay, I was like, this is an argument not even worth having, because at the end of it, I still have to pay all of that back starting in June. So rent deferrals have been offered, but that's as far as we go. There's no communicating, etc.
Yeah, the rent deferral is kind of like the loan conversation.
It's a loan. It's
Yep.
a loan, and I'm borrowing it from my landlord. And I'm going to be honest, sitting from this position, I'd rather just pay it, because then I know where I am and I'm not accruing, so that in June, I mean, in our territory, the estimated peak is in May. So we are not kind of rolling into full business zone in June. So that's when my rent is starting to reboot up, not only in full, but then these back 2 months that I have missed.
In that scenario, you want to know what I would honestly do?
Yeah, because I'm not alone. That's why I'm asking it, because I am not the only person in this scenario.
I would take all the cash out of the account and close the account.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. And then there's no money to withdraw. And I mean, and again, it goes back to the conversation. Eventually, what's going to happen is someone's going to reach out to you from the property management company or whoever, and they're going to say, hey, Janis, you owe for this month, and this month, or we're kicking you out. And then the conversation goes, okay, I don't want to pay those months, but I'll start paying now or when business starts again, and then you don't have to find a new tenant.
Correct.
So that's the way I would go. I would empty the account, close it down, and
I'm actually laughing because I actually tried to do that, and then the bank generously floated me the difference, and I was like, no. So they paid it and put me into a negative balance.
Yeah,
so, you know,
that's it's tricky, but again, like there are ways around it. Like that's honestly what I would do. I would take out all my cash or whatever I had left over in there that didn't get taken out, and close the account. There's nothing stopping you from doing that, just like there's nothing stopping them from going into your account and taking the money. So it's kind of, you have to do what you have to do to survive. And unfortunately, because of what you just explained, where the landlord is going to go into your account, like businesses are going to shut down because of this. Like that's the reality.
And that's actually why I want to be so open about it, because I think that I'm seeing pieces of this conversation happen, but there isn't kind of context given to what this looks like from the studio owner standpoint. And to your point, there are a lot more teachers who are saying, open your arms wider, be more generous, trust that the community will take care of you. But from the owner standpoint, the government isn't helping us, at least in Canada, yet. The landlords aren't helping us there's no law that says they have to. And so we're in the position of accruing all of these debts or deferrals, and we've got an industry who's giving away all of our content for free.
Right. Ideally, what would happen is the government suspends all mortgage payments, and then enacts a law that they cannot charge their tenants rent. That would be the ideal situation, because if that actually happened, I do think that studios could make enough money off of online services to survive.
Me too, absolutely.
I don't think that they can afford their rent payment off of online services, and we can start to transition into that now. It's too new. It's too much of uncharted territories for the majority of studios to be able to figure it out so quickly. In order to make their full expense payment every single month.
So I want to touch on that just for myself. And again,
the whole pricing thing,
I'm going to be super honest. So my primary business is one-to-one service delivery. So again, I know that doesn't cover everybody. I have clients who dropped out of the mix, and that's for a number of reasons. One is that they were newer clients, and so that trust and relationship and rapport was still pretty fragile. And then to your point, we've got a new medium and a lot of confusion. And so to a person, they left my practice. We've got people who are so flat out busy that they are at absolute capacity. So I know we're having a cultural conversation about how much time everyone has. There is a segment of people that have a ton of time right now. Level executives who are pandemic planning teams or who are, overseeing the mortgage department of a national bank. Like, these people don't have time right now to be doing any of this. And then we've also got, I was serving some people in an offline space. And when I'm like, okay, we're taking this online, those largely fell away because that's a whole different conversation. They don't want people to see them or whatever. So my business took kind of a tire iron to the knees. And I think that's a hard thing to replace. It's a very hard thing to replace in a 2-week period.
Right.
And I am considered a success story in this because I had already wandered into online. My face is fine in front of a camera. I've worked out sort of all the things of being awkward in front of the camera. I already had been doing online sales, so I could just create some new, listings. There are teachers who literally have no Facebook group, who have no following in that. And I shouldn't even say teachers. There's studio owners that have always just been that really high touch kind of person. Right. So my numbers are struggling to add up. And it's not like there's this flood of students looking to kind of enter that fold when they don't even actually know me. So how do we sort of
here's my first initial thought. If someone like you, who is charging a premium for, you're usually working one-on-one or one-on-two with clients, usually small group clients, if you can charge still a premium, that's a more specialized and unique experience than a regular yoga class with 15 or 20 people in it. If you can charge a premium for that, where that client is getting a lot less because now it's online, the yoga student can still pay full price because in terms, like, there's 15 other people in the room, they're not missing out on as much, I'd say. Really all they're missing out on are like hands-on adjustments and the community aspect. I get that, but your clients are also missing out on the community aspect, and you're offering a tremendous amount more because it's a one-on-one experience.
Correct. My level of education, my client service delivery model hasn't changed. In fact, I find the experience for a lot of clients right now is actually enhanced because we're getting new work that we hadn't gotten to yet. We're getting different angles. We're getting clients who are actually learning to touch themselves. I had actually stepped away with the Me Too movement from a lot of hands-on client adjustments, but now I can have clients are palpating themselves, which is like exciting. Yeah. So from my one-to-one business, there literally is, no service decline. In fact,
that's interesting.
There's actually an uptick in that experience for them.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. So great. So, but there's really no reason to not charge as much or close to what you were charging previously from a studio perspective. The reason teachers or studio owners don't feel comfortable charging the same amount is because they think that their service is less valuable now because they're offering content that's not as good, and there's so much free content out there. There's a solution to both of those. The free content you can't do anything about. Like I said, you can only control your own teachers or try to explain the situation. You can't control teachers for other studios, other parts of the country. It's out of your control. So why even worry about it? The second thing is offer damn good content.
That's what I'm doing. And that's why I feel Like every student in every single one of my classes or my privates is getting an exceptional experience. And I don't have, in fairness, I don't have classes of 45 people. I didn't before.
Right.
So I have maximum 2 screens of people. I'm able to offer everybody some verbal adjustments. I think on a large level, because I'm no longer in a room where there would be those natural dead spaces or moments of silence, they're actually getting more content, more information, and they're getting actually, if honest, better value for their money in those group settings.
Right. So if you're not comfortable charging what you normally would charge, because in your mind, oh, maybe this Wi-Fi internet cuts out every now and then, and they might not be able to hear me, and like, yes, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. So my perspective is minimize the amount of things that can go wrong and still offer good content. Offer high quality yoga classes or whatever it is, Pilates, whatever it is that you're offering. It still needs to be high quality in order for people to pay, or else what's going to happen is they're not going to pay. It's a simple.
But don't you also think that we have a little moment of forgiveness on some of those tech glitches? Like our Wi-Fi right now is kind of a little buzzy and awkward, but so is everybody's. Everybody having a moment where, you know, we get in the camera, or
Exactly.
I've heard my phone ring a couple times because I don't know how to stop that, you know, but who isn't in that moment right now?
I think.
And are we asking lawyers who work at home to adjust their rates because their internet glitches every now and then in a meeting? Are we asking accountants to do the same thing when they're on a conference call and just say, hey, you know what, you're going to get this one for less today because we had a Zoom connectivity issue?
Yeah, no one else is adjusting their rates. That's number one. But I also think that there are ways around the, like I said, minimizing the amount of things that can go wrong. So the way that I would do it, and I'm not doing this, but if I still owned a studio, this is how I would do it. And it's a completely different model than you, because like you said, you're working a small group, one-on-one, one-on-two, whatever it may be. Most studios are probably coming from the perspective that they have open classes where 15, 20, 40, however many people can show up. Here's how I would attack the situation. For my regular classes, I would not live stream them. What I would do is I would set up multiple cameras. So I would have my iPhone. I have a like a handheld camera that I would set up on a tripod. I would set up multiple iPhones, multiple cameras from multiple different directions. And what I would do is I would film myself practicing the class, not talking, just practicing. After that, now I have all these different, I have 3 or 4 different camera angles. Fantastic. After that, I would then upload the video to my computer and watch the class and teach it to audibly teach it. Inhale, upward dog. Exhale while I'm watching the class. And then what you can do is, I mean, every computer nowadays, I believe, has basic video and audio editing software. You upload your video and then you upload your audio on top of the video so that it's lined up. You might have to adjust it here and there. And then I would create an online library of all of those classes. What that does is it takes the Wi-Fi out of the equation because they're no longer live streaming. They're just downloading the video. So let me explain how I would get it online. After I edit the video, I would then put it on Vimeo.com, which is similar to YouTube. The difference with Vimeo and YouTube is that Vimeo has a password protected video setting. So I would say, a restorative yoga 75-minute class, password is Andrew12345. And I would charge $20 for that class. Someone buys it for $20, they get an email link with the link to the video and the password. Now, here is my answer to not serving the community. That class, they can watch that for the next 5 years.
1,000%.
That's serving them pretty damn well for a $20 class.
$20, yes.
So
yeah.
I take any Wi-Fi glitches out of the equation by filming it instead of live streaming. and I take any audio glitches out of the conversation by actually recording it and then editing it. If you don't know how to edit videos, there is a website called Fiverr, Fiverr. I think it's 2 R's at the end, Fiverr.com. It is a website of independent contractors that specialize in social media and video editing and photo editing and all these different things. And their rates are pretty reasonable. And I would imagine now their rates may have even dropped due to coronavirus. So hire someone for $5 a video and have them edit it. So that's how I would attack it from the general population class. After that, I would live stream privates or small group classes and limit it to 2 or 3 or 4 people. And you can charge a lot more for that. You know, so you can do it. You can do it through Zoom and record it so that they have access to the class if you wanted to do it that way. Just like, you know, the regular person that buys the restorative class that I just spoke about has access to that for life. They would have access to the Zoom class for as long as you wanted them to have access for. But you can then charge more for a more specialized service. And I think those people, to your point before, if I'm talking to a lawyer and the internet cuts out, they're not charging me less. You know, it's just kind of, it happens. You know, people would be forgiving and realize that it happens now as well.
Right. So tell us what you are doing right now.
So I am not teaching any classes. I was teaching at a few studios, obviously no longer. And the studios that I were teaching at, they, you know, panicked when this whole thing happened. They went live, and you know, the studios were like, hey, we'll either pay you half your rate or just do it for free and help us out, because everybody's doing it for free. I was like, I'm not doing that. So
thank you for the opportunity, but no.
Yeah, I was like, I'll pass. If you want to pay me my regular rate, you can, and I'll do it, or whatever. So that went that way. So I am essentially just doing online mentorships.
Cool.
You know, those have gone up a tremendous amount. I mean, before the whole like don't charge for yoga post on Facebook, I put up a post being like, hey guys, you know, I see all these yoga teachers giving classes. That's great. I know it's difficult as a yoga instructor to get really good feedback. And that is what I do. I give really good feedback. That's my specialty. I said, if you want me to look at your class and give you 1 point of feedback for free, I will do it. I got maybe 15 DMs that day.
That's
like,
awesome.
hey, here's the Zoom link to my class. I want to know what you think. And within 4 minutes, I could pick something super simple and give them feedback on it. So it took me, you know, maybe 5 minutes to write a Facebook post and maybe 3 or 4 minutes per video that I am getting in, and I'm just giving feedback on one cue or one thing that they can improve upon. And out of those 15, like that day, I got 3 people to sign up for a mentorship with me.
Awesome. So tell us what that entails.
So the mentorship is we have 2 courses. Alana and I have the online teacher training course, which is for brand new teachers. I'm talking about my own separate mentorship. This is more specialized for people that have already gone through a 200-hour training or a 500-hour training, and are either what happens a lot of times is they're too scared to teach, or people that have been teaching for, you know, and people that have been teaching for a while and never get any type of feedback. It's difficult for instructors to get feedback because what happens is they go after class and they say, hey guys, if you have any feedback, let me know. And the feedback they get is, I loved your playlist and great class. And it's not feedback.
Right, it's not feedback.
And here's the other thing I always say to teachers. The people that are coming to your classes like your classes. So they're not going to tell you that you're not good at something.
Correct.
So it's hard to get really good constructive feedback on what you need to improve upon.
Which actually brings me to a sub point that I actually saw in the free teacher conversation, which is Well, if you're good at what you do, clients will come. We all think we're good at what we do. But how does a client even know? And so I feel like your mentorship program really take that guesswork and that question out of it for a teacher to even bring up the confidence to say, no, I am really good at what I do.
Yeah, I mean, giving feedback to people unsolicited never goes well.
Never good. Never good.
I have people that sign up for our 200-hour program online or my own personal mentorship, and they say, oh, I took training before with this person, and it's usually like a bigger name person out there. And I go and watch their stuff online just to get an idea of where this person that's now doing a mentorship with me is coming from. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like they need so much, like the person that they took the training with needs help. And I'm like, well, tell your trainer to take my mentorship, right? Like that's what I want to say back to them. Yeah. I don't. But like every teacher thinks that if they think that they're good, I can't convince them to take a mentorship.
No, definitely.
They think that they don't need to improve. And here's the thing, like I've convinced people to sign up with the mentorship with me that think that they're good. I'll say, send me one of your classes. If I can't find 5 things that you need to improve upon, I will tell you not to take my mentorship. And I'll tell you those 5 things. So I know that I'm good at it because I can always find stuff. I'm super picky, and like there's 5 aspects of teaching, right? There's your cues, how you speak, which is the main thing that people need help with. There are so many habits that we form that we don't know that we form when we start teaching. An easy one, and I'll give you guys this as a free tip that are watching, is what I call the yoga teacher voice. When the teacher tries to portray the peacefulness and the calmness and the beautiful aspects of yoga through their voice. And it goes like this, and beautiful downward dog. Like, just talk normally, right? So there are cues, how you're teaching. There's the sequence, which is what you're teaching, the poses, right? There are adjustments, which, like you said before, it can be hit or miss with teachers. Some teachers want work on that. Some teachers don't. But I always like to provide feedback just so that they have that in their like yoga teacher backpack, where if they do want to give adjustments, they can. If they don't, whatever, no problem. So cues, sequence, adjustments. There is your theme. So your Dharma talk, how you're weaving that in and out of the class. And then there is, what's the 5th one? Hold on, I'll pull it up for you right now. I'm blanking. Anatomy. So a lot of yoga teachers are not properly trained in anatomy at all.
I agree.
Again, this is a simple thing, but like teachers say all the time, straighten your leg, straighten your right leg. And I always say it's not the leg that straightens, it's the knee, right? So being able to provide specific cues with joints, like, you know, place your hand here, or place your right foot here, instead of like place your leg here. It's really the foot that goes there. So use the foot on top of contractions and anatomical movements. So we go into depth in that, but that's the simplest way to describe it, is to use joints instead of limbs. So over those 5 categories, I know that I'm going to be able to find something that a yoga teacher can improve upon. So I always say, if you don't think you can use my mentorship, that's fine. If I can't find 3 or 5 things that you can improve upon, I'll give it to you for free, or you don't have to take it. Like, you're good to go then, you know? So that's what I do. That's what I'm good at. It's what I've been doing for a while now. So that's what I am doing now on top of the 200-hour program that we offer online.
And on top of encouraging us all to pay.
Yes, on top of encouraging you all you guys to pay. I was kind of like, someone said to me the other day that I was Arjun from the Bhagavad Gita, that like I'll take the hits and the comments and the nasty names up front for the good of the rest of the other people. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like I'll take that. That's fine. But again, it's really not about yoga, the whole conversation. It's just, it's about economics.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. I want to make that clear.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not seeing it in other fitness trainer circles, although there is a lot of the same things going on. I'm just not seeing people get as attached to it's for my community, it's for service.
Yeah.
From a few different worlds. I'm seeing it just from I need to do it because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, it's more like the whole like yoga hiding behind the beliefs of yoga, which again, like, that's great. And if you can't sleep at night, then offer free classes. I'm not going to tell you not to do that if you have a hard time sleeping at night. But if you're doing that, know the long-term repercussions, because they're there and they're real. And now, instead of you being able to teach at 5 classes or 5 studios, 3 of them are going to go out of business, and 2 months from down the road, you can only teach at 2 studios. So know that's going to happen.
And my suggestion, honestly, is if you don't have the confidence to actually deliver that content online,
sign up for message me.
Sign up. So tell us where to find you, please.
Yeah. So go to teach, T-E-A-C-H, better, B-E-T-T-R, yoga, Y-O-G-A.com, teachbetteryoga.com, or Facebook, add me on there, and message me, and I will work with you. And there's different, I've been offering, like you said, because people have lost their jobs, not everybody can afford a $450 mentorship right now. It's a big chunk of change. So what I've started doing is, instead of offering feedback in all 5 of those categories that I explained before, I'm saying, okay, give me $150 and we'll work on your cues over 6 sessions or whatever, whatever it is. So I've been kind of patching together different levels of the mentorship to be able to accommodate how much someone can afford. So if you can't afford the full price, I'm saying, well, what can you afford? I'll give you X, Y, and Z for that price, and let's go.
And I do want to contextualize that you are in US dollars. You're not.
Correct. US dollars for the Canadians out there. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't even know what that is, the conversion rate of that.
I haven't looked for a few weeks, and I don't even want to look. But
yeah, no,
I'm sitting in that 30 to 40% deficit already.
Yeah, I'm avoiding all the news and all the whatever else is out there. So, yeah, but message me. And like I said, I offered to just give 1 free point of feedback. I would be happy to do that for anybody out there. Send me your videos. If you're charging for them, great. Give me the passcode for free, and I will give you 1 free point of feedback or a few different things that I'm able to pick up on. And I can do it in 4 or 5 minutes. Boom, no problem. You'll have immediate feedback 15 minutes later after I type it up for you and send it to you. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on here and having a little chat about.
Thanks for doing this, and I hope we get back to normal soon and make sure that your clients pay you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome, Janis.